Hi there. At the start of this year, quite a few people asked me the same question. Why are you semi-retiring? Why not just retire completely? And if I'm truthful, I don't think I've got a particularly good answer for that. 8 months ago, I decided to go down from 5 days down to 2 days a week. So this video is hopefully going to explain it a little bit better, and possibly even to myself now I'm starting to think it out. Because when people retire, the first thing that the actual conversation turns to is always about the money. Have you got enough in your pension? Is your mortgage paid off? How much do you need every month? Why are you taking your pension? And of course, all that is important. You spend most of your working life paying into a pension, and then suddenly somebody says to you, "Okay, right, you can start spending it now." And your immediate reaction is spend it. I've spent 40 years putting it in there. For some people, certainly not in my case. But I think there's another side of retirement that people don't talk about nearly as much as they should. And that's actually leaving work. Not the pension, not the money, not whether you can afford another holiday, but actually how it's going to feel when you walk away from something that you've been doing for most of your adult life. On Monday night, there, I met up with a couple of my cousins and friends for a couple of drinks, and there were six of us sitting around the table, and unbelievably, I was the youngest. I'm 64. That does not happen very often anymore. Normally, I'm the youngest person in the room. I've accidentally walked into a pensioner's lunch. The others were 65, 69, and three of them aged 70. So out of the six of us, I was the only one still working. And admittedly, I only work 2 days a week now. So calling myself the hard-working member of the group might be stretching things slightly. One of the guys there, called Peter, has been retired now for 4 years. And he's been a friend of my cousin's for over 50 years. But I've also known him professionally because we worked in similar industries. My background started in electrical work. I served my apprenticeship as an electrician by going to college and then going working on sites, working lots of plenty nights late and weekends to get the kind of financial situation that we had to get to with marriage and children, as everybody knows about that. And over the years, then I moved into other jobs such as data networking, data cabling, and currently working in the fire and security industry. Peter followed a similar sort of route. He went through college, uh, then university, worked within the industry, and eventually became an M&E consultant. So between the two of us, we've spent decades learning, training, getting experience, making mistakes, learning from people, and probably occasionally pretending we knew what we were doing until we actually did. As they say, fake it until you make it. And the question I asked Peter was quite a simple one. I said, "Do you miss it? Do you miss the work?" Because that's the bit I think I would struggle with. How do you spend 40 odd years building up all that knowledge, and then one Friday afternoon somebody says, "Okay, thanks very much, that's you finished." And then comes the Monday morning and nobody asks you anything. You don't receive any emails, you don't get any phone calls, there's no drawings to look at, there's no problems to solve, no meetings to attend. Actually, that last one might be the strongest argument for retirement I've heard yet. But Peter's answer surprised me. He basically said no, that he didn't miss it. Now, maybe that's because he's had 4 years away from it. Maybe when you're newly retired, you think about work more, and then gradually it becomes something you used to do rather than something you still feel part of. But his answer definitely gave me something to think about because over the last 8 months, working only 2 days a week, I've really enjoyed that extra time off. It's given me more time with my family, more time for travelling, more time for the grandkids, and I've even started this YouTube channel, which also proves that sometimes having too much time in your hands can be dangerous. But there's something else that I've noticed. I feel much more disconnected from work than I expected to, and I'm not even fully retired. That's probably the biggest surprise. When you're working 5 days a week, you're involved in everything. You know what's going on, you know who's doing what, you hear all the conversations, you're part of the day-to-day life of the place. When you're only there 2 days, things happen while you're away. Decisions get made, projects move on, people have conversations you're not part of, and you come back in occasionally feel like you've missed 3 episodes of a television programme. Who's left? Who's joined? Why are we doing that now? And you're thinking, I was only off for 5 days. However, 5 days is a long time in business. My role has changed slightly as well. These days I tend to be involved in smaller projects than I was previously. And that probably adds to that feeling of disconnection. But it's made me realise something. When people retire, they're not giving up just a salary, they're giving up routine, they're giving up their colleagues, and they're giving up conversations. They're giving up that little feeling that somebody might actually need their knowledge or experience. And after spending most of your life doing something, that's the part that I don't think's easy. So, what about the financial side? Because I know people are watching this thinking, that's all very well, Frank, but can you actually afford to retire? Well, we've been fortunate. We have managed to clear our debts. The mortgage is paid, the cars are dealt with, my motorbike's paid off for. And because I'm still earning something from working 2 days a week, I've been able to leave my private pension untouched at this stage. So financially, working part-time has worked quite well for us. I'm earning less, but I've also discovered something interesting. When you're only working 2 days a week, you have another 5 days available to spend money. Nobody mentions that in any of the retirement brochures that I looked at. But this experiment has actually taught me quite a lot. At the beginning of the year, I thought semi-retirement would simply be a gentler way of stopping work. 5 days became 2. Then at some point, 2 would become 0. Simple. But now I'm beginning to realise there might be a bit more to it than that. Because the question isn't just about, can I afford to retire? The question is, am I ready to stop being the person I've been at work for most of my life? And I suspect those are two completely different things. So, after 8 months of semi-retirement, do I still feel the same way about fully retiring as I did at the beginning of the year? Well, I'm actually not sure I do. And I'll explain why in another video, just to keep you hanging. So if you're approaching retirement, already retired, or like me, you're somewhere in that strange middle ground, I'd genuinely be interested to hear how you found it. Did you miss the work? Did you miss the people? Did you struggle with suddenly having all that time? Or did you walk out that door on the Friday afternoon and never think about the place again? Let me know in your comments, please. And if you want to find out whether I eventually retire completely, subscribe to Just Frankie and Co. Because at the moment, even I don't know how this story ends. Thank you. Thanks for listening.